Lieutenant Jake Morrison had seen many strange things during his 3 years aboard the Aurora station, but nothing prepared him for the moment he accidentally complimented an alien warrior and changed everything he thought he knew about the universe. The Velari delegation arrived on a Tuesday morning, and Jake was assigned as their cultural liaison because he had studied their language for 6 months and could pronounce the clicking sounds that made up half their vocabulary. Their leader was named Zarathik, and she stood nearly 7 feet tall with skin that shimmered like polished obsidian under the station lights, and her eyes were twin pools of liquid silver that seemed to see straight through him. Jake tried to be professional, but his brain short-circuited the moment she stepped off the transport ship, because she was absolutely stunning in a way that transcended species, and he had never seen anything like her. The Velari were known across the galaxy as fierce warriors who had never lost a battle, and their ships could tear through enemy fleets like paper. But they were also mysterious because they rarely interacted with other species. During the first meeting, Zarathik removed her ceremonial armor to show the traditional tattoos that marked her rank, and Jake's mouth opened before his brain could stop it. The words came out in perfect Velari, because his training took over, and he said something that translated roughly to your physical form brings honor to your ancestors and displays perfect balance of strength and beauty. The entire room went silent, and every Velari warrior turned to stare at him with expressions he could not read, and Jake felt his blood turn to ice because he realized he might have just committed some terrible cultural offense. Zarathik stepped closer, and her silver eyes locked onto his, and for a long moment she said nothing, while Jake wondered if this was how he would die on a random Tuesday, because he could not keep his thoughts to himself. Then she spoke, and her voice was like thunder rolling across mountains, and she said in perfect English that no human has ever understood what those markings truly mean until now. She explained that among her people, physical appearance was considered a direct reflection of inner strength and discipline, and to acknowledge someone's form was to acknowledge their soul and their worthiness as a warrior. Jake had accidentally given her the highest compliment possible in Velari culture, and one that was traditionally only exchanged between equals or between those who recognized each other as worthy opponents. But there was more, and Zarathik's expression shifted into something that might have been amusement, or might have been something else entirely, and she told him that such a compliment also carried implications among the Velari. When a warrior acknowledged another's physical and spiritual strength so directly, it was considered a challenge or a declaration of interest, and sometimes both at the same time. Jake felt his face burning because he had not meant it as either, but he also could not deny that he had been genuinely awestruck by her presence. Zarathik tilted her head and asked him directly which one he had intended, and the room seemed to hold its breath waiting for his answer. His diplomatic training screamed at him to apologize and claim ignorance, but something deeper made him pause because there was a weight to this moment that he could feel in his bones. He looked up at her and met those silver eyes and told her the truth that he had meant every word, and that he recognized her strength and her beauty, and he would not take it back even if he could. The other Velari made a sound like wind chimes in a storm, and Zarathik's expression shifted into what he now recognized as a smile, and she said that humans were more interesting than her people had believed. She told him that she accepted his acknowledgement, and that she found him intriguing because most species cowered before the Velari, but he stood his ground despite being less than half her size. Then she did something that made every human in the room gasp, because she removed one of her ceremonial armbands and placed it around Jake's wrist, and the metal was warm against his skin. She explained that this was a token of recognition, and that he was now under her protection as an honored equal, and no Velari would dare challenge or harm him while he wore it. But she also leaned down until her face was close to his, and she whispered something in Velari that made his translator implant struggle to find the right words. The closest translation was, "I find your spirit burns bright, and your courage speaks louder than your size, and I would know you better." Jake realized that his accidental compliment had started something he did not fully understand, but that felt significant in a way that went beyond diplomatic relations. Over the next few weeks, Zarathik requested him, specifically for all cultural exchanges, and she taught him about Velari history and philosophy, and in return he showed her human culture and music and art. She laughed when he showed her action movies because she said humans made warriors look weak and clumsy, and then she demonstrated moves that made his training look like a child's game. But she also listened when he talked about Earth and about the things humans valued, like family and connection, and the small moments of beauty in everyday life. One evening in the observation deck, she asked him why he had really complimented her that first day, and Jake found himself telling her the truth that he had been overwhelmed by her presence. He explained that humans responded to beauty and strength and grace, and that she embodied all of those things in a way that transcended language or culture. Zarathik was quiet for a long moment, and then she told him something that changed everything, and she said that among her people she was considered plain and unremarkable. She explained that Velari valued symmetry and proportion above all else, and her features were slightly irregular, and her markings were not perfectly balanced, and she had always been told she was adequate, but never beautiful. Jake stared at her in disbelief because to him she was magnificent, and he told her so with every bit of conviction he possessed. She looked at him with those silver eyes, and something shifted between them, and she said that perhaps beauty was not universal but personal, and that his perception made her feel seen in a way she never had been. She reached out and touched his face with fingers that could crush steel, but were infinitely gentle, and she said that she found his smallness and his fragility and his courage to be the most beautiful combination she had ever encountered. Jake felt his heart hammering in his chest, because this was territory he had never imagined crossing, and he asked her what this meant for them. Zarathik smiled and said that among her people, when two warriors recognized each other's worth, they often chose to walk the same path, and she asked if he would walk with her. He said yes without hesitation, because in that moment he knew that his accidental compliment had led him exactly where he was meant to be. The Velari delegation eventually returned to their homeworld, but Zarathik stayed behind and requested a permanent position as a cultural ambassador specifically to work with Jake the station. Commander approved it immediately because having a Velari warrior choose to stay with humans was unprecedented and politically valuable. But Jake knew the truth, and it had nothing to do with politics and everything to do with two beings from different worlds who saw each other clearly and chose connection over fear. Sometimes late at night when they stood together in the observation deck watching the stars, Zarathik would touch the armband she had given him and smile, and Jake would think about how a single moment of honesty had changed everything, and how sometimes the most important words were the ones that slipped out before you could stop them. Because in praising her body he had accidentally praised her soul, and in return, she had shown him that beauty and strength and love could exist anywhere in the universe if you were brave enough to reach for it.